You're watching the Eternal Tournament Series.
Hello and welcome back to round 2 of the Eternal Tournament Series, Season 2, Weekly Open number 2. I am Sir Rhino, and joining me in the booth to break down this next match of Huru and Huru Plus, shall we say, matchup here is Ilyon.
Hey everybody, good to see you today. And,
all right, Ilyon. Yeah, we've got Flash on Huru midrange versus Danibor on Blue Armory. So give me your initial impressions of these decks.
Huru and Huru Plus. Love that idea. These are interesting. You were mentioning it before that the Armory list is actually like a traditional Armory list. It's not, say, like Akaria Blue like you might have heard of. It doesn't have Lightning Storms, it doesn't have Hailstorms. It is running the 4 Rakano Artisans, so it's kind of an old school look. And I really like the idea here of Blue Armory, honestly, for this kind of a meta, because we were talking about how aggro has kind of been put to the side thanks to things like Hailstorm. And so this deck just opts not to use it. It's just going to assume that, you know, everybody else is running Hailstorms. Aggro is not really going to show up. And so it's going to focus like directly on mid-range cards. So it's got 4 Vanquishes, 3 Eileen's choices, and Artisans and a bunch of weapons. So I kind of love this list, honestly. I think it's a really good meta choice.
Yeah, when you get into a meta where there's a lot of mid-range decks with not a ton of reach and a lot of control decks that are looking to sweep the board over and over, Rising for Nordic Runehammer is just a good strategy, right? It's just super solid against those time-based mid-range decks or even these Argenport mid-range decks, whatever, right? They're not packing a lot of charge units. So they're going to have a tough time denying you 2-for-1s off your Auric Runehammers, and you just kind of build out from that. It's not like this deck's all about just that card. Harsh Rule and Akaria and Torch are all fantastic cards on their own as well. It's really just always that threat of Runehammer that forces people to extend and play in uncomfortable situations. Yeah,
absolutely. And I know that you were saying Huru is kind of one of the decks that you particularly like. How do you feel about this list from Flash here?
This is an interesting take on Huru. Huru's had it's been in this weird flux since the latest set came out, where we kind of everybody knew it was going to be good. We just weren't sure how best to approach building Huru. It has a lot of options in terms of, do you go Hailstorm approach or a more beatdown approach? And here we see Flash with 4 Crown Watch Paladin, 4 Kothon, but it's all about that Huru pacifier. I love this card. We were talking about how 3/4s for 3 are a really good place to be, and this is flying in overwhelm on top of not letting Danibor play weapons.
Yeah, and like, as much as I like the choice of deck from Danibor, like that idea to just go heavier into weapons, this is the punishment for it, right? Is if you can get a Huru pacifier down on the side of Flash here, that's pretty bad for Danibor's chances.
Yeah, speaking of pretty bad, as this game has developed, Danibor's staring down 2 units. Kothon got buffed up to a 3/4 thanks to the Warcry from Crown Watch Paladin, and he hasn't had a fire source this whole time, so wasn't able to use Sword of Akaria on Crown Watch Paladin. The Strategize finds a Seek Power, so that's something here. But he's under a lot of pressure, and now Flash will have the luxury of being able to hold up Island's Choice to protect against Harsh Rule going forward.
Yep. Or even to protect against like guys getting something really deadly here later on, like being able to grab a Starsteel Daisho to save him from a bad board, things like that too.
Flash could take the risk of playing out the Storm Dancer here and letting the shield for Harsh Rule down, but then you're letting your Kothon and Storm Dancer die to Harsh Rule, and he just opts to stick to 2 units, which is generally the magic number you want to be on against Armory style decks.
Yeah, you don't want to slam too many things onto the board here. I like that play by Flash. I think that it'd be a pretty big mistake to leave down Eileen's Choice, knowing that Danibor is almost certainly going to be running. He's going to be drawn into some Harsh Rules at some point here.
Great draw from Flash here. 3-drop means you can hold up Eileen's Choice. It means you're not activating Kothon though, so that was the choice to be made there. But Flash opting to really play around Harsh will respect that card in this spot, and I like that.
I think that's definitely the play there. Just drawing that 3 is so important. It's why you don't slam the Storm Dancer either, is that you know that a lot of your threats are at 2 and 3, so you don't mind holding up the Eileen's Choice, waiting, hoping that you hit something like that.
Yeah, so interestingly,
yeah, there we go.
Yeah, see, the interesting thing there was if he had ulted Kothon beforehand, he would have gotten buffed to do more damage. Cool. It would have also been in range of Island's Choice, which Danibor had 2 of held up there.
Yeah. Interesting.
Ooh, and there's the pacifier.
Pacifier. Oh man, that's a draw.
Yeah. Now Danibor can't play weapons, and if they have harsh rule, you can Island's Choice it.
Yeah, that's just a brutal hit on the side of Flash here against Danibor. That's going to be very, very hard for him to deal with. So do you bother Island's Choicing this? Because it could become, I mean, it's going to become an card, right? I think you have to.
Actually, Danibor doesn't have Valkyrie Enforcer. I thought if he had Valkyrie Enforcer, I would Island's Choice it, but he doesn't. So I'm okay with just leaving it up and saving it for if they potentially top deck harsh rule the next turn.
Yeah,
because a Cardia here is not going to do
anything.
It
doesn't matter. No, it's not good enough. Not even close.
You have 3 lethal flyers, and there it is, harsh rule off the top. So Flash, recognizing the value of this Island's Choice, holding it forever, knows it has to hit harsh rule. It hits harsh rule and closes out the game.
Exactly the game plan. And man, Pacifier is just going to be such a hard card for Danibor to get over. It's funny that the Crownwatch Paladin, in a way, almost becomes a liability for the Pacifier, because pumping it to a 4/5 is kind of just like the worst possible situation, right? Like, you do not want it to be bigger. That actually opens up all kinds of removal possibilities that you don't want to happen.
In spots, right? Yeah, it does leave it open to being killed by Island's Choice and Vanquish, but it also means if your opponent already has weapons in play, it's out of range of those. And as we go to post board, it'll get out of range of Lightning Strike if that comes in, and it doesn't matter if there's a bring down. Bring down's going to kill it no matter what.
Yeah, that's very true. I've got to imagine that. So if you're looking as the Blue Armory player, you're siding in all 3 of those bring downs, right? Like that definitely has to come in.
All of your opponent's units fly, other than Crownwatch Paladin. Kothon eventually does, and in the meantime, you can still silence it so it doesn't fly. So yeah, the bring downs are the best possible card you can bring in here. They literally kill everything. They're absolutely incredible. So those are coming in. It's really a question of what's coming out for this Blue Armory deck. Like, Torch is just a versatile card and lets you use your weapons to trade up in spots, but it's not naturally killing Pacifier. It's naturally killing, though, Commando, Enforcer, popping Aegis on Rider. I don't think those get shaved. So what does?
Can't really do that. It's a tough one because, like you said, like Torch and Sword, I mean, there's a lot of 4 toughness creatures, but at the same time, there are some 3s that you really need to deal with, particularly something like Unseen Commando has to die. So it's hard to shave a lot off of those. You can't cut things like Runehammer Rise.
Maybe you trim Vanquishes? Like, they naturally kill a melee and pop the Aegis on Sheltering Rider. Everything else dodges it in the meantime, unless Crownwatch Paladin's doing damage to you.
Yeah, you probably can shave a little bit off of Vanquish. You might be able to... Do you cut the Staff of Stories?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a little tough
probably
to
cut
set
that
up in this match. On the other end, though, what do you think Flash is going to do? Vision Austerity hits relics, but I don't think you really want to use it on relic weapons necessarily. And
no.
He's got some other really intriguing options here. Thunderstrike Dragon looks super sweet in this kind of matchup.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I was going to say Thunderstrike Dragon looks really good because one of the problems that Armory has is that they are just using a lot of like kind of 1-for-1 type removal, right? Where they run a weapon into your creature and then the weapon's dead. Even Auric Runehammer, which is one of the ones that generally can get a 2-for-1, there's a fair amount of the time where you have 2 creatures, Runehammer deals with 1, and then you know that your Runehammer's dead on the crackback. And I mean, Thunderstrike Dragon just making multiple threats is a tough thing for Armory to deal with. So that's kind of a nice one to side in here. I don't think, I mean, you're not going to put in another Eileen's Choice, I wouldn't think. You already have the 3. You're using them specifically for the harsh rule, but you have protects already. Like,
because let's see, how many cards is Flash automatically cutting? The 4 permafrost are gone for sure, and then you're going to shave
some number of protect, right?
I don't know if you cut down on protects or not here. It's just it's a useful card. You're playing Sheltering Rider.
Yeah.
3 is a lot, but let's see. I think I still like it more than something like Vision of Austerity. Unseal is better against sweepers, but again, the only sweeper they're playing is Harsh Rule. Although, Yeah, I guess is Unseal just like a better protect in this matchup?
In a lot of ways, I would think. I mean, because most of the time, weapons are going to be as much of a removal possibility as actual spells. So protect is less useful. Unseal does all the same things and can actually, stop a harsh rule in a way that protect can't. So
Yeah.
it might be a better idea to unseals in for protects.
Yeah, so game 3 is underway, and this is one of the problems with Huru. They don't have a crest, unlike some of the other mid-range decks that have been popular. And that can lead you to some power issues, although there's a crucial Seek power off the top, so Flash can start playing some of these 3 drops in hand that required double justice.
Yeah. Good draw on that side.
So now Danibor needs to find a justice source, and that'll unlock his one of Valkyrie Enforcer that he happens to have here.
Double Huru Pacifier just feels so backbreaking already. Like it's just such a good card in this matchup in particular.
Yeah, but he's going to opt to not put both pacifiers out and expose them both to harsh
which is a wise decision. Yeah, putting both down is a really bad idea for sure.
Yeah, Flash has wisely been respecting the power of harsh rule in these matchups so far, and if he just draws a 6 power at any point, he unlocks a lot of dragons and potentially huge dragons.
And this is that funny little interaction, like I was saying, like pumping up the Huru Pacifier to 4 can often be a bit of a downside more than an upside in this kind of a matchup. So it's funny there that we see the Eileen's Choice eating the Huru Pacifier, but I immediately replaced the second.
All right. Danibor finds some justice sources in the form of a Seed of Glory and a Seek power. Going to keep both of those. And looks like he bottomed a Sword of Ikaria in this spot.
Yeah. Silence the Pacifier.
Oof. Flash can cast 0 spells in hand.
I was gonna say, Melee being a really awkward draw here. I mean, you're sitting on 5 power, but you don't have triple justice, so you're just kind of stuck. Any power card is a great draw here, though, for Flash. Like, Flash's position right now is not as bad as it might seem, just because of the...
No.
I mean, drawing 1 power here means that everything turns on pretty much in their hand, and if they don't draw power, they're drawing something else that's probably playable.
Yeah, the fact that Danibor hasn't gotten to a spot where he's untapped with a weapon on a clear board means Flash hasn't been under too much pressure up to this spot, and... at some point he'll be able to leverage all these Thunderstrike Dragons and Nostrix and Ability and everything else.
Yeah.
Flash is hoping for what? Undepleted power, or if it is depleted, that means it's dual faction and that you can still cast Ability. So he's set up decently. Instead, just finds more 3-drops. Sure, why not?
It's not bad, though. I mean, Danibor really has nothing as part of the problem here. Is that, like, what is Danibor able to do? Although, wow. That now we've got a lot of frogs.
Yeah, but the thing is, Flash also has Nostrix. And Nostrix, so if he uses Rain of Frogs on Thunderstrike Dragon, all those frogs can just become 6/6s.
Yep. Yeah.
So Danibor's in a rough spot here. If you transform the Thunderstrike Dragons, there's going to be 6/6s instead of 6/6 flyers, assuming Flash finds a justice source for Nostrix at some point. If you transform Nostrix, Flash still has 4 Thunderstrike Dragons in the end.
I need to see some ribbits in chat if this happens, because wow, that's some big frogs.
Yeah, so Nostrix here kind of making this choice a lot more difficult than it seems on the surface.
Yeah, because I mean, you want to get those dragons out of hand. You can't let them land, but I mean, Nostrix just absolutely destroys that play. So you've got, either way, you're just kind of hoping here as Danibor that Flash just never finds their last power, right? Like, looking at his hand, you've got to be like, yeah, it just hits the Nostrix.
Yep.
And now gonna have to face down all 4 of these Thunderstrike Dragons.
Yeah, if you're Flash, respecting harsh rule is one thing, but when you have this many dragons, you can throw some out there and make them have it.
Yeah, exactly. You just pummel it out. No reason to hold back at this point when you've got this much of a card advantage.
Yep, so Danibor does have 2 Vanquishes. They've been sitting in hand all game, haven't had any targets, but now they finally do. and that'll deal with some of these dragons, but eventually one will get left standing. So Danibor needs to find some way to turn this game around. And in the meantime,
honestly, these frogs are actually becoming a really big problem. Yeah, you're just dodging all of the removal. There's no other harsh rule here for Danibor.
Yeah.
And that's
like
really
when we see Rain of Frogs in some of these other decks that it's been leveraged, you know, Feln or even Akaria Blue or whatever, they're playing Lightning Storm, they're playing Hailstorm. They have ways to clear out these frogs. Blue Armory doesn't. These 1/1s are significant. You have nothing to sweep them away other than Harsh Rule.
Would you torch that there to save yourself a point of life?
You may have had to, but here we go. Danibor rips exactly what the doctor ordered. A Auric Runehammer off the top, buffed up exactly.
With exactly what you need.
Yeah.
Still, I mean, this is not an easy spot for them to be in.
All right.
Now I've got to imagine it's just pacifier, or is it a melee? No, it's going to be a melee. Yeah,
you've already seen 2 vanquishes. They already have a weapon in hand. Emily dodges that weapon. They can't hit Emily with that weapon. All right, he's just going all in, making Danibor draw the harsh rule. And if they don't, they're in trouble. Instead, it's a Throne Warden, which is some life gain here.
It's not enough, though, is it?
So you've got no way to deal with a Millie is the problem right now.
Yeah, like the 3/4 dies, and you end up being able to block one of the 1/1s, but then you just die. There's no real way out of this.
Yeah, you can't swing your hammer into the 3/4 because that kills you from a Millie. So
yeah, but I mean, not swinging into the 3/4 also just kills you because you can't block it either. So you're just kind of stuck.
Yeah, you are dead. There's a protect to really seal things up. Emily gets going, and Flash takes this one. This is a matchup that Huru used to struggle with, but the additions of things like Emily and Huru Pacifier we saw have a huge impact here.
Yeah, Pacifier is just an incredible card in this matchup, making so many cards dead in Danibor's hand at a time that it's just really tough to beat. And dodging so much removal, too.
Yeah, we knew Pacifier was a big gain for Huru. It just happened at the same time that the meta was shook up in a weird way that the matchups it was really good against also went away. But now we're seeing it make Huru starting to show up a bit more. I think in today's tournament's the 2nd or 3rd most popular deck. Arch Report's still the most popular, and I think the 3 faction Scream decks are popular, but Huru's right behind them, close behind them.
Man, what a fast matchup. I really like the idea of that armory list, but just a bad matchup there with all those Huru Pacifiers coming down and being just a major problem for that deck. Like, it's really, really hard for Blue Armory to get over that kind of a card.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I've loved the Rain of Frogs out of the sideboard plan there either. It's not usually a card I'd like to see against a mid-range pile of good stuff. Like usually you want Rain of Frogs against decks with less redundancy in terms of win cons. And we saw there it reached maximum awkwardness thanks to the old Nostrix really putting a damper on its ability to do things.
It's hard to run a Rain of Frogs into a deck that everything is just kind of good. It doesn't really solve the problem. Whereas, hitting a harsh rule against TJP or something, or hitting a, channel, like that's huge. But in this kind of a matchup, it's just kind of not going to get you there.
All right, so we are working on getting into a backup, as that was a relatively quick 2-0. And
pretty quick one.
Looks like we've got IlyaK versus Jez, and we're gonna try and jump in and get. Okay, yeah, there it is.
Yeah, I've got setting it up right now.
Yeah, we've got Ilya on hand cam. I'm jumping in to observe Jez.
Oh, we have Ilya on hand cam. Okay.
Yeah, so Ilya is on Fire Time Primal Spells. So, you've got your Sandstorm Titans in the heart of the vaults, and your top end is making giant sentinels. And Jez is on, looks like, I'm seeing Highwayman and Treacheries, probably FPS screen. Let me double check the actual lists. All right. I'm waiting to get word on what the match status is in terms of what the records are. It's at least post board. Okay, it is 1-1. So this is for all the marbles. And yeah, Jez is on Screaming Queen or whatever you want to call this deck, where it's 4 Highwaymen, 4 Bandit Queen, but also it's a Scream deck with Gorgon Fanatic and Champion of Fury. It's just a lot of charge units. You know, I was talking about how the metagame for a bit there didn't have charge units. This kind of spits in the face of that idea.
Yeah, and it's funny, like I really like the idea of that armory list that we were talking about. I'm just going to go back and just mention that for just a second, but like with how much Screaming Queen or Scream Queen or what, like you said, however you want to call it, it does make it kind of rough because armory does not deal well with charge either. So it's got some tough matches in this particular ETS.
Yeah, it's a pattern we've seen in the past where some mid-range decks start to get popular in response. Slay and Vanquish and Harsh will show up to try and take care of them. Those are all, slow speed cards, so charge units get better. And here we see Haunting Scream off the chop from Jez will get unsealed by IlyaK. What was that even going to get? It wasn't even really a great Haunting Scream target. I wonder if he would have grabbed Grenadin Drone just to get a 1-1 on the board.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm unable to. I'm waiting to get to see some of the hand in real time. I'm just kind of watching through the stream here, so I'm a little bit delayed.
Gotcha.
So, got to get a friend request sent in here.
Well, IlyaK didn't top deck, but warped in a Heart of the Vault. Ultimate value, and now gets to play a Lumen Defender, gain some life, and could potentially even use Equivocate to like return it to hand and turn it into a better beater if he so desires. But we'll probably just use it to save one of his units from a Combust that's lurking in Jez's hand, who is actually getting pretty good card velocity here, has drawn a few of his Amethyst Waystones, so is allowed to load the hand back up, found to strategize as well, and can now play out Assembly Line plus Combust or Vicious Highwayman. We'll see what they set up. But yeah, here we see the line comes down.
Yeah. Assembly Line, pretty good at chump blocking here and buying some time.
Yeah, not so good at chump blocking, though, when IlyaK's got a Lightning Storm lurking in.
No.
Danibor from the last match showed up with no sweepers. IlyaK, when you're FTP and you don't have Harsh Rule, you got to find your sweepers elsewhere. And when you can back up Lightning Storm with Torch, turn it into one-sided board wipes like this, you're going to end the game with 2 torches to the face.
Yeah, also just drawing the moment of creation just as a little bit of extra and insurance there, like just total overwhelming.
Yeah. So IlyaK takes that one 2-1.
Moment is one of those cards that it doesn't look that good, but man, when it is good, it is absolutely fantastic. And in those kinds of matches where you know that there's not going to be a Harsh Rule, you can just overload the board with a really huge amount of creatures.
Yeah, Moment is a card where, you're getting 2 huge things, and it's really easy to discount that and say, well, they don't have evasion. How good can they be? Well, when they're backed up by things now that they have access to Hailstorm and better removal like Equivocate, you only need to connect with those 16/16s or whatever they end up being some of the time once or twice to end the game. It's not like they're showing up as 8/8s anymore. The changes to this deck have made them absolutely massive. And there's also not that many, token decks or chump block decks out there anymore anyways. And even if you are facing down an Obelisk deck, Hailstorm can take out a lot of units even through an Obelisk now.
Yeah, absolutely. Moment of Creation feels like one of those legends that's really, it's been behind just as a sleeper card for a while and is really starting to see its time to shine. It's an interesting card, and I'm loving seeing it around a lot more because it seems like such a surprise. It's been around for a while, but not seen any play, and now it's really having its time to shine. Yeah,
I'll admit I definitely talked some crap on this card when it first came out. Now, granted, it did cost 8, but even when it got buffed to 7, I think Neon and I on our podcast still shrugged it off and laughed at it. But there were some players out there that saw its potential and recognized how much stronger it got with the addition of Hailstorm and Equivocate in this archetype. And man, it's been doing work, especially when they finally realized that maybe they shouldn't play Curiox alongside it anymore.
Yeah. Curiox, unfortunately, just kind of a bit of a scattered card. It does a lot of things, but it doesn't do anything that's really focused. So it ends up just kind of petering out for me.
Yeah, it's you want to play it in a deck where it's reliably getting its infiltrate effect and drawing lots of cards. But in those decks, they're not playing enough mid-range threats up front that is actually going to survive when you first play it. And it's just a lot of awkward tension there on Curiox. Undoubtedly a strong card, but still has not found the right home. And who knows if it ever will.
Yeah, it just requires too many little pieces. Like you have to not only be playing a lot of spells, but then you also have to be playing all of the relics and different things like that. And once that deck really just decided to dump Curiox and stop being, for the memes, then it really became quite a threat. So it's a sweet little deck there for sure.
All right. So with that, we don't have any backup matches. So we'll be taking a short break, but first I just wanted to get in and talk about what exactly is going on here, right? For those of you that may be watching for the first time or just want to know what's up, this is the Eternal Tournament Series. This is our second week of our second season. This has been an ongoing community-run Eternal Tournament series, right? It is what it is. It's pretty self descriptive, at least, where every week we have an open tournament, no prizes on these open series, but they're also free to play in. And depending on how you do in these open tournaments every Saturday, you can get an invite to the invitational where there are prizes. And then based on how you do on those invitationals at the end of the season, there's also even bigger premier tournaments down the line. So it's a lot of fun. There's not a lot of ways to play best of 3 right now in Eternal. I think this is one of the best ways to do it, as it's a really fun and dynamic format. And there's also a lot of great players. It's a great way to get better at the game, get better at deck building, get better at playing. And it's a fun way to spend your Saturday, whether you're playing or watching. So check it out. If you need more info or want to register for a future one, go to aReNGeeeternal.com for all the information you could possibly need on the Eternal Tournament Series. And with that, we'll be taking a short break, and we'll be back with round 3 after that.
See you in a minute.